Hey, so welcome back. Today we are going to be doing some reviews. I am Mega.
Jet Axel. Shit.
DJ L-Spade. What it up?
Yeah, and we do a lot of things other than this thing, but this is the thing that we're going to continue doing for a while. And today we're going to start off with an album review. And in the background, I think mostly, if you're listening to this in a podcast form, you'll definitely hear the beats in the background. Maybe not so much with the video, but all these beats are brought to you by Japanese beat maker extraordinaire Bug Seed, who is now back in Tokyo. And so if you're out here, try to figure out where you can go watch him perform. And check out he come out with like a new beat tape every month. He's absolutely prolific
as hell, yeah.
Prolific. But yeah, today we're going to talk about Kota the Friend and Statik Selektah's To Kill a Sunrise album. And let me just explain for people who don't know, to start off, I got some notes here. I made some notes. So Kota the Friend is an MC from Brooklyn, New York, 28 years old. He's got a couple mixtapes under his belt that were largely acclaimed. I believe one of his albums was rated on Rolling Stone's top hip-hop albums of the year back in 2000 and something. And he's only been active since 2018, so maybe it's 2019, in which he was considered, to have released a great project. And if I remember those years correctly, there was a lot of music those years. So I mean, I haven't listened to those projects. He is a musician who's turned down a variety of different music deals in order for a DIY and independent ownership approach, which is I rock with him heavy on that. This is his project with the great Statik Selektah, who everybody should know Statik Selektah from his ridiculous catalog with everybody. Strong Arm Steady,
Everyone, yeah.
Bumpy Knuckles, Freeway, Saigon.
If you don't know,
Crooked
go
Eye.
research it.
And even fucking Paul Wall. So, Statik Selektah is tried and true in the game here. And they decided to collaborate for this album, To Kill a Sunrise. And let's start by talking about, do we know? What are our general thoughts on Kota the Kid? Do we know of him before going to this project?
Kota the Kid.
Kota the Friend.
The friend.
Kota the guy.
Kota dude.
Yeah, Kota the Kid. I was fucking up. I was calling him the Tomodachi. I was fucking it all up. Hey, not as bad as you last time with Farouk.
The first time hearing dude, man. I was like, yo.
The God Farouk.
Yeah, Farouk.
Right. Now,
Wrestling.
You could see our faces on that. We was just like, oh, come on, dog. Hey, but we're prepared today. So Kota the Friend.
Kota the Amigo. I had never checked out any of his stuff before. Like, some of my younger friends are really, really into his work. Like, I've got some friends, some younger dudes. My boy Deza, who you met a little while ago.
Deza put me on.
Yeah. Huge fans. A lot of those guys, they're really into like that very smooth, soulful, like younger wave of guys. You got your Sminos, your Amines,
right?
Dreamville, that kind of post J. Cole era of rapper.
Mm-hmm.
So I was familiar with it. I've heard some of this stuff before. Like I was, I'd nod my head to it. But this is the first time I've actually listened to one of his projects.
Yeah. What about you?
Yo, it's a solid project, dog. Like, dead ass. One thing, Statik Selektah came up with the heat on this joint. And the project was well mixed. Like I didn't, hear too many weak spots in production. Because the first thing, when the production hit me, I'm like, oh, my God, who mixed this joint?
It's clean.
Bruh. Squeaky clean, man. I was just like, hats off to whoever mixed this joint. As a person who mixes in the box myself, and I can appreciate good production. And damn it, this was good production. Not many weak spots on the production. It was a pleasant listen. And let me tell you something. Shout out to Kota for bringing back the third verse. Like, I thought that was a dead art form. I'm like, yo. I looked during the track list. I'm like, yo, 4 minutes? What? 3:45? Like, damn, why is he song so long? Because I'm used to
it's
2.5 minutes now.
I mean, one of my favorite songs from last year was like 1:28.
Right. That's the standard now because it's not advantageous in the streaming age to make a long song.
Right.
Because you need to get that money, man. Like, as a person myself, I'm talking personally now. Like, I won't make a song over 3:20 because I need that streaming. And that's just on the outskirts. Like, most of my songs are 2:30. So Kota.
I mean, I think all of us are familiar with Statik Selektah, so we kind of knew the production was going to be dope coming into this, but all three of us weren't familiar with Kota. Did you listen to him before?
Yeah, I was familiar with Kota, and there could be a little. You could make the argument that fame has kind of gotten to his bars. Like it's not the same as when he first came out, but that's to be expected. I expect
Sure.
a slight. When your situation change, your bars to change too.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because I saw a lot of people like ragging him. He doesn't have the same hunger. It's not the
really?
same way when he came in. I'm like, yo, bro, he got money now. Like, yo, it's not going to
To
be
be
the same.
expected for some
yeah,
people,
it's
right.
like, come on, guys. Like,
I mean, one of the things that I was curious about, and one of the reasons I will go back and listen to some of his other albums, is because it says that he's a musician and he makes a lot of his beats, and a few of his other mixtapes were all his own production. So perhaps that adds a certain level of depth to the Kota experience. But in this one, Let's start. I mean, I basically, you're giving us your general opinion about the album. So keep going. Yeah, how you feel?
once again, the Statik Selektah beat selection was dope. Because the whole project, if I had one critique and say it was bad, it got kind of mundane towards the end. Once you start getting to the end of it, it all started to sound the same. It started to blend. But overall, damn good album, man. It set it a mood. It set a mood. To kill a sunrise, right? You can see yourself on a sunrise listening to this junk. It was good.
I mean, all right, I'll tell you my impression. You said it's a vibe, like it feels mundane to you about halfway through.
Right.
For me, like 2 tracks in and I was already like, oh, I know this. Like I wasn't really, it didn't have any real depth to it for me. And most of, and this is not to say that the bars are not, he raps well. His voice sounds good. The beat production is well. It's mixed well. All of the little aesthetic things that you would want an MC to have are there for me, except for any innovation, any particular style, any content density. And so I just wasn't really feeling a lot of the shit. It was really like a nothing burger for me.
Innovation wise, what you mean by innovation?
Well, I just mean that there's nothing like most of this is very cookie cutter boom bap music to me. This is that generation of MCs who are post like Joey Badass 2012, where it's like, oh, well, there's a bunch of young kids who like the aesthetic of boom bap hip hop. And so we will take that same approach to production and that same focus on rap rhyming and use it today in a modern context. This is very a conventional boom bap album. This is like a Nas album today. Like Nas raps about similar things to this, but the difference is for me is like I just don't have any particular interest in anything this kid is saying. I don't think anything is deep, meaningful, or insightful either. I mean this is a grown man, but I really don't want to come off just straight bombing the man's work here, but that's what
Kinda
it feels like. It is definitely.
Oh, just wait till I get started.
Oh,
but it's
God.
like But it's like he talks about like his experiences, and the album is full of optimism and overcoming and all these things that are really great platitudes. I don't think he says any of it in any very like wonderful way. He's not creating a new sentence. This is Nas for the fucking neoliberal Obama era.
There's a bar on there where he talks about like how him and his boys were like overcoming trauma.
Yeah.
And it's like the only time there's any kind of like actual introspection on the record. But he kind of just like, and I'm going to get into like why I didn't like this record. Like on first listen, I hated it. I hated that record on first listen. I listened to it like 3 or 4 more times after. And like, there's a lot to like about it. And I think it was my initial kind of, reception to it was like pretty overwhelmingly negative. Like the beats were cool. He raps well. It's well produced. It's well mixed.
Yet you don't like it.
But it had like
Can
toxic.
I reconnect to the mic just a little bit, like into.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. It was like toxic positivity to me.
Toxic positivity.
Yeah. This is the people who post like inspirational quotes on Facebook all day, and then if you have any kind of negative energy towards or around them, like there's no actual like introspection or desire to actually look at like why people feel things. You just got to be good vibes all the time. And every single track on that record has Kota talking about how like he's rising up and how he's overcoming and how he's positive and he's great. And how his haters.
He uses the Nas refrain. I can't
not lose. Yeah. Which actually that was kind of dope. I kind of like that. But like, it's like his haters come up in every single track, and it's very passive aggressive. It's always just kind of like they just don't understand. There's one track on there. I don't remember the title of the track, but he literally is just like, oh, I feel so sorry for my haters.
The second track,
like,
yeah.
I want to just
hate.
I just not even hate. Although hate had a cool beat. I like the beat on hate. But
it's one
like,
of my better ones. Yeah.
It was like there's one joint on there where he's just like, you know, and one day like come back and I'll be there for you with a hug and a cup of warm tea because I'm so above you and positive and I'm just bright and my light is shining and you are just a form of weak, pathetic.
What did you want though? Did you want him to come in like being super depressing? Like
no,
what did y'all want?
I mean, it's not that I really need him to do anything different than that. Like I feel the same way about J. Cole actually. I just don't feel like there's this is music that is not made for me. This is music that is made for 22-year-olds, high school students, I think.
Content-wise, yes.
Content-wise, like the depth of it are these type of platitudes. These are kind of like after school special raps to me, and that's cool. And I didn't take it as positive, but I took a lot of it as just like, this is bullshit that you tell yourself when you're young. And like he talks about his struggles as if they shaped him, and to me I just don't connect with that. He talks about like, oh, I was doing an internship and I had to leave that because I had to go make money, and it's like, okay, that's dope. I mean, maybe there's a 22-year-old going through that now, but this is not for me. Again, these raps are just like, there's nothing to them anymore than what I would read on the platitudes.
That's the thing. I think y'all are applying grown man standards to the music, and y'all not enjoying it for what it is.
Because dude's the same age as me.
Right.
Okay, if you take the music for what it is, man, it's not a bad project. Now,
it's not.
Would I put this like on the pantheon of greatest albums ever? Hell no. No. But listening to the project, like you even said, the beats are good, the lyrics are good. But
the album shit?
On a come on.
No, I'm not saying the album shit. I'm just saying it's a nothing burger.
Not liking it and thinking it's bad are not the same thing.
Okay.
I didn't like it. I don't think it's a bad record.
Okay.
I think it's a pretty good record. But like it's like playing Call of Duty to me. Like the graphics are good, the gameplay is good, like, but I can't vibe with what it's putting out.
Okay.
I don't want to play a game about going to Afghanistan and shooting people. It's not what I'm into.
I mean, look.
And I'm not saying Kota's about
right.
jingoistic or anything like that, because he seems like a good dude. Like he
and I would be Kota's friend.
He seems like a friend.
Look, I don't think that there's much bad on this, but I think that this is just a very kind of throwaway album in the midst of 1,000 albums that really sound like this. I really think that there's a lot of music that comes out like this that has this density, it has this level of quality, it has this level of writing. The bars are not even that spectacular to me whatsoever. Like, I
mean, his rhyme schemes are pretty like straightforward.
He's an ABC rapper.
He's an ABC rapper.
Yeah, but I mean, like, even sometimes with that, like he over. Of course, you're supposed to be braggadocio, but none of it hits for me whatsoever. I wrote down a line here. It says, Alcoholics Anonymous, living like a hippopotamus, fucking around with the Oculus, digital me is wildin'. And I just don't get, like, to me, that's the album. It's a variety of things about him feeling good, but nothing, no through line. When I hear To Kill a Sunrise, it makes me feel like, oh, it's time to go to sleep. Like the alarm clock went off, the sunrise is coming on. Let's hit that snooze button and go back to sleep. That was the vibe
he was trying to do, because all the tracks were kind of lo-fi type, calm you down tracks. It wasn't anything that really hit hard for the club on this album. I thought that was the whole vibe he was trying to catch.
It's a boom bap album.
Yeah, but I mean, even the fact that it's like wordplay on like a sweet cocktail, like.
Man, y'all so critical. Why y'all
so
hard on Kota?
I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying, like, the mood they're trying to set, is very much like you're sipping on a tequila sunrise,
right,
on the beach, or like on the boardwalk or something.
Sans the album cover, yes,
exactly. Like you got like a nice low rider driving past, and you're just sipping on it. Like it sets a mood. but it's just something I couldn't personally relate to at all.
Let me shift gears here and stop talking about what I perceive, what prevents me from wanting to go back to this album is my own personal subjective listening standpoint. I think that this is a very common and particular lane in hip hop that a lot of people do. This is like Joey Badass without the badass. This is like J. Cole. There's a lot of rappers that make music like this and a lot of people who are in the market who really rock with this. But for me, there's just not enough density. There's not enough wit in the wordplay. There's not enough anything that really keeps me there. But I'm also a particular type of hip hop head. And I think that this album's really good. And when I walked away from this album, it made me say, okay, if this is his project with Statik Selektah, I got the Static beats, which are fine to me. None of them really stood out as incredible.
Right.
For me, they're just good beats. I wanted to go back and listen to Kota as himself, just a single DIY artist, because that seems to be so much of what he talks about. Like, I read a few interviews. He's into the idea of doing it himself and being independent. So if he's a musician, I'm going to go check that out. And I think that maybe this album as a first listen might be doing a disservice to Kota. And I like I said, I'll be his friend. I'm going to check out more of his music, but this album in particular was just not hitting for me.
Okay.
No, this was a nothing burger for me.
I do think this is an album that you will appreciate if you see like the evolution of Kota. And then you get to this album, like, okay, yeah, you're making moves on there. And once again, there is a slight change in bars and delivery, because once again, if you're rapping on your own beats, you can ride them a certain way because you're producing your tracks with how you want to ride it in mind, versus choosing somebody else's track when you got to be like, oh, okay, well, how am I going to come on this? So I think he was actually taking creative license too, to try to like, okay, I got Statik Selektah beats. I can't rap the same way I rap on my beats. Let me change it up a bit.
Word.
I mean, to his credit, the tracks are all pretty long. There's like one feature on the whole record.
Right.
And that's a singer.
And it's a singer.
I forgot the name of that person.
Me too.
Having Haley something.
Is it Haley or Holly Selassie? It's Holly something, right?
Oh, it's
Haley.
it's
Haley.
Highly Supreme.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like Highly Selassie.
Yeah.
But
that's actually my favorite track on the album.
I mean,
well, maybe
getting
a
singer on board was a good move because that penultimate, like those last tracks where he's singing, like the one point in the album where I feel like it's actually poorly executed.
And I totally agree with you on that. Like one of my key phrases is, if you can't sing, don't sing.
Yeah.
Like you can make the argument that auto-tune help people express themselves and stuff like that, but at some point, get a singer, bro. I hate fake Jamaicans and like people who can't sing. Like, yo, so I totally agree. That was the low point on the album. Like, yo, come on, stop, guys.
I didn't hate it as much. Like,
really?
I just took it as like another facet of this kind of thing that he's doing here. But I know that he don't like Michael Jackson and shit.
I don't like Michael Jackson singing, dog. But he don't enunciate.
Right, but I didn't. I'm a fan of bad singing sometimes. I didn't consider this bad singing. I consider this very typical of this type of approach to hip hop. This happens on a lot of albums.
It does.
What?
So, I mean, I got friends who are super talented who fit within this box of making music that is not really trying to do anything other than make good music that sounds like this.
Right.
And this is good music that sounds like this. And to be honest with you, I would probably go back to this Kota the Friend album before I go back to a Nas album, which tries to do the same thing, except Nas is 20 years older and he sneaks in those I'm super philosophical bars, by the way, I'm hella rich. And all of it sounds hollow to me. So, I mean, yeah, Kota the Friend is my friend.
Yeah, I mean, if I was just kicking it with my boy and he played this to me, I'd be like, all right, cool. But, like, I don't think for me, it didn't hold up to a, like, headphones on, dark room, deep listen. Because they're just, like, the album doesn't really have any themes. Like, there's not, I mean, his
Or the themes are just, like, hater.
Yeah, like,
you know what I mean?
Like, oh, I'm
haters.
positive and my hairs are bad. Like, and
This
you know,
is about
it's
the
because
love of hip-hop.
on the final track of the album, like 10-15 seconds before the album ends, he's like, to my haters, fuck you. And that's the only time he shows any actual teeth towards his haters. Every other time it reads like a subtweet. Like, it's just like
It's passive aggressive.
it's very passive aggressive.
That's on brand for him, though.
I wouldn't
I'm
know.
saying, that's on brand.
Passive aggressive rap is hard. I didn't know about that genre. Put me on to
Yeah,
some
I'm
more
saying,
artists.
like, yo.
I know Drake does some
Yeah,
of that
Drake
shit,
is
right?
super passive aggressive.
Oh, word.
Man.
I mean, I grew up from a different era. I grew up where you intentionally try to make enemies. I'm a 50
That's
Cent
how,
era.
yeah, that's how you're like, look, I'm gonna be direct with you.
But again, that is, I think that's a typical kind of, I don't want to say trope, but it is something that you see in a lot of this age group. Like, you know, this kind of like post Obama, post social media type of approach to rap shit. So I don't know, man. Let's say what are your favorite joints off of the album? I like Wolves. I like
Wolves are dope.
I like Wolves. I like Go Now, which is the one with Supreme, Holly Supreme.
Yep.
I also I didn't think the Code was too bad, and What You're Saying is fine.
I liked Hate, even though it's the worst track.
You just dogged it all out. Yeah, I like it.
In terms of like the lyricism and what Kota's talking about, this track like embodied what I didn't like about the record, but I like the beat. I think the beat is real cool. You know, it's a Statik Selektah beat, like you know what you're getting, but at the same time, I think that beat was pretty fucking fire. And
It's also the one that to me sounds like the most like a throwback boom bap hip hop
yeah,
song.
it's like a boom bap hip hop track. And Kota is like totally serviceable as an MC over those kind of beats. And it takes you to that kind of place. Otherwise, I didn't like Wolves just because, and this one's definitely like on me. Like, I'm not even going to raise this as a criticism of the record. Like, I'm just really not into, I feel like the wolf is the most played out like metaphor, like image, like, oh, raised by wolves, like, you know,
I'm a fix wolves.
I'm a, like, right. It's just, that's just like a trope that doesn't do anything for me anymore.
They tried to switch that up back in the early 2000s. It was like, oh yeah, the fucking, you know, the what was it? The honey badger is the new badass animal. But I think that was largely perpetuated by the white community, and we let that one go.
I mean, I actually rock with the honey badger because they're small, vicious.
Yeah, I mean, so are
go with that. Yes.
So are Datsuns though. You know what I mean? Datsuns are hard.
Yeah, min pins. Yo, the first 4 on this album was dope. Like Wolves, Hate, Code, The Love. And I think they started the album out real good. Then it starts to drag me down, and I get used to it, and that's the problem. But Wolves is undoubtedly the hardest on this album. So props for starting the album off hard. You caught my attention. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a banger. However, as I kept on progressing, I'm like, yeah, okay, all right. And I actually like The Glow. I mean, Dayglow. Dayglow is pretty dope too. But I consider any album where it's 4 junks I listen to be a success. If it's 4 junks I listen to on an album, then I'm like, okay, the album ain't bad.
Out of how many? I mean, out of 10, that's a 40%.
Yeah, out of 10.
Okay.
Out of 10, I'm good with that. Like,
Oh,
I'm not even listening to albums that's 20 anymore. Like, yo, your album got 20 tracks.
sure.
I'm not doing that.
I mean, sometimes it's 20 tracks, but it's still 40 minutes.
Yeah, if you can do 1-minute tracks now. Yeah. But nah, dude. I ain't got time for 20. So 14 is my max now for an album.
14 minutes?
No, 14 tracks.
Tracks
is the max for me for an album. Anything other than that,
that's such a
deluxe.
weird caveat to have in your listening taste.
Well, okay.
Other than being like, yo, I don't support mainstream artists. You got a track criteria.
As a music maker, right? A single is 1 to 3 tracks, right? EP is 4 to 7, and then
It used
LP.
to be time.
Huh?
It was time.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that's the thing, but
anything over what 40 minutes is an LP.
Album. Yeah, an LP.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it was the amount of songs that you could fit on a record.
Yeah.
But now it's tracks. So it's track based.
Maybe. I mean, according to your criteria.
Yeah, I'm saying it's track based now.
Right.
Like an EP is up to 8 tracks, right?
Okay.
But to me, that can be an album too. An album is anything over 8, but I'm not getting into like over 14.
Okay.
For me, my listening pleasure.
I feel like we're gonna have to have like little like 10-minute segments where we get into the particulars of our taste, why we like, or maybe like a wrap up, like, you know what I mean, like after we record the things, what do we think about these albums, the way they contrast each other and things like that. Maybe we could do something like that.
I'm just thinking about it. If you had one track, if you did a Prince, 1 track, 40 minutes, is that an album?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you call that? Do you call that a single?
Yes, a 40-minute single.
movements and all.
Yeah.
So like
if you got one track,
so a symphony like a Mozart is like, yo, that's
that's one piece.
I mean that's intentional. That's intentional.
You got one part. You got parts of it, right? Okay, this is this section, this section, but it's still one piece. It's one track.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
I mean, I'll rock with it.
As Jet looks at me with disgust.
This is a debate. This is a debate
because this I think from a hip hop perspective, and especially from something that's pretty like mainstream friendly, like that definition works for me. But as someone who listens to a lot of jazz and someone who listens to a lot of rock, I listen to a lot of punk, and some punk records will be 30 tracks, and the longest track on there will be 1 minute and 20 seconds long.
Right.
If it's like hardcore. Similarly, if you're listening to like a progressive rock album,
In the Guy in the Vita,
like
that's 13 minutes.
Right. You listen to like I don't know, like a Mars Volta record. Some of those records, I mean, they're all like 10 tracks or so long, but some of those albums can be like almost 2 hours long.
Right.
And it's like there's so many ideas being thrown at you in each track that you are getting, if they decided to just split it up, you look at, I don't know, there was like a King Gizzard record a couple of years ago that was divided, like it's really 3 tracks long, but the album is like 12 tracks because they've divided each song on that record into 4 separate tracks, which I wouldn't be surprised if that was like a label constraint or some kind of issue, because I know, for example, with like iTunes, if the song is over a certain length, you can't buy it individually. You have to buy the album because they obviously don't want people spending 99 cents or $1.99 or whatever for what is functionally a full album.
Right,
if you're trying to listen to, I don't know, like a stoner metal album, that shit might be 2 tracks long and be 80 minutes long.
Right.
And they don't want people being like, oh, I'm just going to buy these 2 singles for.
I mean, at the end of the day, that I just kind of feel like if you put a track number limit on it, that's a little weird. That's all I'm saying. That's all I got to say about it. That's all I got to say about it.
20 tracks, I'm out.
The length of this album was not a criticism I have of it. Okay. It was like it was what?
Kind of for me,
40 minutes or so.
Yeah, it was pretty short, like 39 or something like that.
34.
I'm not gonna lie. The third verse is something I had to get used to again, listening to this album, because the third verse had died.
You don't listen to a lot of boom bap then. I mean, it's typical.
I'm saying for this time now, though, it's not typical. Like, yeah,
I disagree.
For the 90s, yeah. The third verse was live and prevalent.
I mean, like, there's a lot of music that comes out like that. Just like that.
I'm not.
I mean, to Kota's credit, like 10 tracks, 35 minutes.
You don't listen to After School Special Rap often, huh?
I don't.
No.
They got that third verse. They got that fourth.
No guest verses on that record. He carries the whole record for 35 minutes. Like
Droog shit.
Yeah. It's an album to me. Like,
I give props to that if you can keep my attention for the third verse, but I'm just saying now I'm not used to it. And maybe that's me like making music that's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds. So I got to get used to it. It's just like binge watching TV on Netflix. Like, yo, now when something comes out weekly, I got to get used to that. Like, yo, I can't watch everything right now. So that's kind of like the mindset. I'm not knocking the third verse. I'm like, yo, hey, you brought it back. Cool. But for me, listening wise, I think the average listener would be like, damn, man, this song kind of long, man.
Word.
Third verse?
You right.
You got more to say? Damn, you couldn't get it all in 2?
Yeah, word. Well, rate it. Let's rate it.
Your
This
haters
is going
are
long.
still bad?
Right. Jeez, tell me about it. Yeah, I mean, he's just being, assaulted. The mortals of the internet are most uncouth. Rate it though. This is going long. Let's finish it up. I give it 2 out of 5 Illmatics. I give it 4 out of 5 J. Cole's.
I'll give it 10 Drakes out of 10. Because if you're a Drake fan and you're not into like anything outside of the mainstream, you just listen to top 40 stuff, this is a great record. I think this is exactly the kind of stuff you should be listening to get it, like, to broaden your horizons. It's not a particularly challenging or difficult record, but it's like, it's not a pop record in the purest sense of things. It is a hip hop record, so I would recommend it. This is like
the hydroxy to J. Cole's Oreo. This is like the great value. This is Joey Badass without the badass.
Y'all are so hard on the friend, man.
I will give it $2 in Joey Badass's name out of 5.
Damn. On a general scale, 1 to 10, like all encompassing, I'm gonna give this junk a 5.5. It's
Fair.
a decent album. Now, is it something that's gonna blow your mind away? It's not. But out of 10, man, like it's worth giving it a try.
I'm rated higher than you for that. I think that it's a solid 6.5 album.
I can see 6 is respectable. 6 is doable.
6, I mean, because it's not like 50% is not bad and 50% is not good.
Right.
It's just something.
It's a neutral.
Something's there.
Yeah.
It's a good album to people, but there's nothing that puts this into the great category or super interesting or the top 10 of the year.
7 will be too high.
I don't want to rate this record objectively because, or like quote unquote objectively, because if I have to give it like an objective score, like towards objectivity, like it's probably a 7 to me. But like
7 too high. That's too high.
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Like the bottom line is like I did not enjoy my time with this record.
Do you think that Kota would be our friends after hearing all of the spit that
No,
we just...
he's going to say that I'm like just a
You're
typical
one of the
Scorpio.
haters.
You're gonna get a
I'm one of the
passive-aggressive bar. Next
I'm
bar
just-
to you.
I don't elevate my vibrational frequency enough, and that and that he's gonna have a cup of tea for me when I want to sit down and talk, and we can be friends. You know, if I ever meet Kota the Friend, which is never gonna happen, and he pulls
might
up and
come
he's
to
like,
the
"Oh,
show
you're that
someday."
dude that gave me the shit review," and he just like knocks me the fuck out. Then I'm gonna raise the score of the record by 1
If he
because it
comes
seems
to
like he's learned
Japan,
something.
if he comes to Japan, he'll do the Mega Late show, and I'm gonna have you co-host with that. And we can,
Okay.
we
What?
could also set up some MMA. We'll go down the street to Imanari's gym. You know what I mean? You guys could roll around a little bit. I think
Definitely
you
down
could
for
take
that.
him. I think you can take him. You got the length. Use the jab.
that Israel Adesanya.
Work the jab.
Anderson Silva.
Work the fucking jab. Let's cut this interview. Let's cut this off. Kota the Friend, To Kill a Sunrise. Statik Selektah on the beats. We enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Come back again once we figure out a name for this shit.
Unnamed.
Come back or don't.
I don't tell him that. We want this. We want to come back.
Hey,
No, you don't.
Hey, one second.
Hey, Doc.
Please come back.
Right.